Hi, Sapna. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Mary.
Tell me, tell me a little bit about your journey with homeopathy. How did you first find homeopathy?
Well, it was a bit of a long, convoluted journey, but in a nutshell, it was because I had IVF. That's the
Oh,
reason I found homeopathy. And I think the universe works for you. And I met a midwife along the way who actually came to us to be a hypnobirthing teacher, and then she started talking a little bit about herbal remedies. She started talking a little bit about pharmaceuticals as part of um, our birth preparation. And I kind of thought at that point, actually, I don't want any epidural. I don't want any kind of drugs in labour. So I didn't. And I went on to have my firstborn son with no drugs and had a natural labour. And it was really empowering. Um, and at the time, funnily enough, I used to work for a pharmaceutical advertising agency. And I became slightly disillusioned with that because of what was going on and what was being reported inside the agency to do with certain drug trials that were going on. So I decided, right, I need to look for a different modality. I need to kind of, look after my child a different way. Homeopathy just like fell into my lap. Um, Someone just talked about arnica, and I thought, what is this? What is
mm,
arnica? So I toddled off to CHE to find out more about homeopathy, and came out of that having signed up for a 4-year course. So I think it found me, and I think it was meant to be.
yeah, yeah, perfect. So, what is it that you love about homeopathy?
I think it's the holistic nature of it. And it's the fact that, it doesn't treat people as fractured parts that kind of are jigsawed together. I think the consideration for the interconnectedness about how we work in humans and the intelligence of us, in terms of how we are designed, is just amazing. And I love the fact that the pills don't actually do anything except trigger your body to heal itself. And that for me is amazing, because then you're talking about real cure. You're not talking about managing symptoms. And it's phenomenal when that happens. And just as an example, I'm going to give an example of what happened to me. I recently had my daughter, well, not recently, a year ago, but I felt really awful because I had a really horrible meeting with a consultant midwife who was basically saying, you're old, you need to be induced, your baby will die. And I was so upset, but I didn't realize how upset I was. And I was so ready for labor, but I wasn't going into labor. And there was no physical symptoms. It was just
Mhm.
this rage in my head and, real sadness in my head. And then I thought Staphysagria, well, actually, my colleagues recommended Staphysagria. I took Staphysagria. I immediately felt better. And an hour later, I went into labor. 3 hours later, I had my baby. So
Amazing,
it's
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So now I understand that you work quite a lot with fertility clients.
Yes, yes. I kind of wanted to give back. And even though I'd been through IVF for my first child, I had two others who were totally homeopathic babies, because after that, I never had pharmaceuticals again. And
Mhm.
everything that I had was homeopathy. Um, and I'm just really, really driven and passionate about this subject. I think, we're in a infertility epidemic, and it's devastating. And I know that devastation because I've felt it myself. And I can have like I've got empathy for people, but I can, and compassion, but I can come from a different angle, having been there for myself. And it's something that's just so interesting in terms of the way we work hormonally. I didn't understand anything about the endocrine system before this, and you know now it just blows my mind how it's such a beautiful and delicate dance, and how it kind of governs everything about us. Um, yeah, so I think that's where it's come from. I love working with fertility. The remedies just do wonderful things to balance out hormones, to kind of, you know, help people resolve things that are blocking them from becoming pregnant. And it's not always hormonal. Sometimes like it's more emotional trauma. Sometimes it's to do with gut imbalance. Sometimes it's to do with imprints of synthetic hormones. Um, so it's really diverse. and it's always really interesting, and also quite humbling to be able to help people.
Absolutely. Gosh, okay. So tell me, you also have a podcast.
Yes, I do. It's called The F Word. It's a natural fertility podcast. And I just talk about all things to do with natural fertility. So there's currently 4 episodes on there. I talk about I talk about my own journey. I talk about the kind of concept of infertility and how it's a real label, and how we should move away from that label, just building on the foundation of homeopathy, and think about what the symptoms are, because conventionally you get a one size fits all. And what I find is you can't work that way. Everyone's really unique, and their reason for not being able to become pregnant is really unique. There's an episode on there about nutrition as well, because I think it's really important. It's a cornerstone. And I've also started to get guests on there. So I'm recording some new episodes with a Bowen therapist, specifically about fertility. I did not know that Bowen and fertility work together. So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to another nutritionist who specializes in fertility to talk about how important, nourishment is in order to be able to conceive. So yeah, there'll be lots more, because, it's such a vast subject, and I really enjoy doing it.
That is so fantastic. Tell me, how do people find your podcast?
So it's available on Spotify and Apple. It's called The F Word, but there's loads of podcasts called The F Word.
Okay.
But mine's a natural fertility podcast, and there's a picture of me with sperm going into my head. So that's how I found it.
Perfect. Okay. And can they link from your website? Yes,
it's available on the homepage, where all the fertility information is about what I can, the services that I provide. So I provide 3 different services. You can do a detox, and I think a lot of people need detoxes these days. Mm-hmm. And often that's all it takes to nudge your system and kind of trigger it to rebalancing itself. Yeah. I do single fertility appointments, and then I also do a program which is for both partners when there's infertility issues with the male and female partner. But there is also a link to the podcast on there, and then you'll be able to see the kind of cover of the podcast. Yeah. Into the head. And then you'll know what it looks like.
Perfect. Remind us, your website is?
It's thewildhomeopath.com.
Perfect. Thank you. Lovely meeting you again. Come back soon.
I will do. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.